Welcome to Love and Life. I'm Dr. Karen Anderson Abril here with my co-host,
Pastor Elliot Anderson.
And Love and Life is your place to hear conversations grounded in psych research, psychotherapy,
and biblical truth
to help us thrive in love and life. Well, we have to start this episode because I'm just fresh off watching the hearings for the Fauci diaries, hence the proud member of the control group established 2020 CAP. It was pretty vile to watch, Elliot, just because you had, again, everything was drawn upon partisan lines. People who we elect to go represent us. In the case of the Democrats, they were more concerned with protecting Fauci, this public servant for 50 years. And it was very sad for me to see public servants, in the case of the politicians, the senators, who have been elected to protect and to represent their constituents. And they were more worried about poor baby Fauci. People are misunderstanding what he went through. He was just trying to do the best he could. Mistakes were made. Oopsies. No. Are you for the people or are you not? But he pled the fifth. He literally had nothing to say to any question.
Not any of them.
Not a single question.
Wow.
Would he answer?
How long was the process?
It was like 3 hours. I jumped in halfway because it started, I think, 9 o'clock Eastern. By the way, he has that pardon from the auto pen under Biden administration. So he's up. And the pardon starts January 1st, 2014. What was he doing for 6 years before COVID even hit that he needed to be pardoned from? That's an interesting question.
That is.
So talking about freedom, there's no freedom when we get lies. There's no freedom. I don't even think we live in a free country, frankly. We don't. We live in, we're taxed up the wazoo. We're regulated up the wazoo. I mean, we paid property taxes. Did Dan or did Dan not buy this house? So he's still renting the land, essentially.
Yeah.
Don't get me started, but.
So are you for
Welcome to Love and
free
Life.
tax state? Is that you're for no taxes? And yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why Florida.
Some states are doing it. Yeah.
Is so appealing. Yeah. Well, Tennessee, Florida, one of the Dakotas, Texas, there may be a couple others.
Okay.
That have no state tax, at least.
At least that part, yeah.
Yeah. And Florida's trying to get rid of the property tax, actually, which then people get all upset because they're like, well, how are we going to fund the schools? Legitimate question. And my understanding is that Florida's not going to fully eradicate the property tax, but reduce it like by 60%, which is still a big number.
That's huge.
But let's talk about funding the schools via property taxes. Then we have all kinds of inequity because the Tony neighborhoods with their wealth and their high property taxes, because they have these $1 million homes, they get the good schools.
Absolutely.
And then you go to the hood and there's no property taxes because so many people are renting or in public housing, and you have cruddy schools. So I don't think this model has been helping anyone anyway.
Yeah.
What else should we talk about? I got lots of opinions.
Let's just stay on the medical freedom aspect. And, I will give you my thoughts and my perspective and my pastoral spirit on top of it. But what is the latest on all these fronts? Because I know you're always up on it. And let's just speak on some of the medical freedom areas.
Well,
I know there's been a lot more on vaccines again.
Yes.
The childhood vaccine schedule. There's some big movements on that is pretty exciting. And
well, I can't speak to the actual, there's definitely a big move that I'm going to start volunteering for with Steve Kirsch's foundation, which is a Vaccine Safety Research Foundation, rather. Steve Kirsch was the one who funded. He's a millionaire, or maybe billionaire out of Silicon Valley, so super techie guy. And he actually took the jab and a couple times because he believed he could trust folks that were in place in charge to help us, supposedly. And then he had some, the guy who, one of his grounds guys that helps his lawn and stuff, all of a sudden was talking about how someone had taken the jab and then died the next day in his family. And then he heard 3 or 4 other stories very similar to that. And he's like a statistician guy, numbers. He's like, this is not a coincidence. There's just no way. He sees the world through that probability. Again, as a guy who does all zeros and ones and numbers and tech and that sort of person. Anyway, so he was the one who funded the Defeat the Mandates that Dan and I went to back in January of 2022, which is where all the dissident doctors, the doc stars, as we like to call them, and other medical freedom advocates were there. Anyway, he is now, the big push on that front is getting back to the childhood vaccine schedule. It's very much related to that, which you and I have talked about extensively, because in 1986, under Reagan, which most folks on the right really love Reagan, but this was a big error. He allowed the pharmaceutical corporations to have him enact in 1986 basically the ruling is, I can't remember the exact name of it right off the top of my head, but If you manufacture a product and it is called a vaccine, you cannot be held liable should anyone have an adverse event.
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah.
Yep. That's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah,
That's like saying, oh,
nuts.
GM, make a car, and if like the engine just dies in the middle of the highway
Blows up. It's no
right,
big deal. Yeah.
you can't be sued. So what incentive does pharma have to produce a product that is safe? They don't. Yeah. The only incentive is to get it called a vaccine so it can have
get on the schedule. Yeah.
Have the liability shield, which is this protection. It's insane. And again, I will submit to you and any other Gen Xers or millennials or anyone else who remembers when it was the left who would have been, I'm sure it were the Democrats back then. It was the Democrats who were screaming that to the rafters. This is not fair. This is a big corporation who we don't trust. This is big pharma who we don't trust because we are the left and we're not for the big entities. That this would not be fair and that would obviously lead to disaster, which if you look at the childhood schedule in 1986, there were like maybe 7 vaccines and we can show a graphic. But you look at the number of vaccines, now it's up to, if you start with pregnancy and you end with the child at 18, there's over 90 shots that you are giving a baby.
Crazy, yeah.
A baby. Babies get multiple shots. And again, it goes into all kinds of other things because then pharma is like, oh no, not only do you need to give your baby the shots, but anyone who wants to be around your baby, which we've talked about, it's been a big issue with our family right now because Dan and I are now, after having gone through 6 years of looking at what happened with the COVID jab, called a vaccine inappropriately. It's not a vaccine. And the CDC actually changing the name of what a vaccine is. Now, it used to be you get this little bit of a vaccine, little dose of the disease, and then you are prevented from getting, almost like it's providing immunity. But then the CDC during COVID quietly changed that to, oh no, it just helps prevent the infection and
the worsening of the symptoms or whatever.
Yeah, all that. Yeah, they just started just changing what a vaccine was. So anyway,
how many vaccines when we were little? How many were there supposed to be? I don't remember that many.
Oh, we had polio. We had smallpox. Well, smallpox, I'm like the last year. 1970 is the last year to get smallpox. Halfway through the year. My friends who were born halfway through the year do not have this. I'm January, so I got it. Yeah, you know, the scar that we all have.
Yeah, I got one too. Yeah.
Yeah, they got rid of it because they realized it's gone. Why are we vaccinating for something that doesn't exist anymore? Polio, we had measles, mumps, rubella, which I got mumps anyway.
Yeah, so did I. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you gave it to me.
I probably did. You probably deserved it. So on that front, getting back, I haven't had time because I've had people in my house for like the last month.
Lots of people.
Which is wonderful. But I'm going to be calling people who've already expressed an interest in questioning this liability shield, this protection that was rolled out in 1986. Because the big pharma at the time said, hey, to the Reagan administration, people aren't wanting to take these vaccines. People are saying, they're questioning them. And so they were like, we can't, if we're going to get sued all the time, or people were suing them, and they're like, we're going to go bankrupt. So we're going to be petitioning Congress, and I think it's already passed the House, if I'm not mistaken, to repeal that. It needs to go away. You cannot have any industry producing a product and then having the fullness of the CDC and FDA and all the entities that some people still trust for some unknown reason, pushing parents to do this. The parents, do you think the pediatrician tells them, by the way, when we give your child 7 shots of the 3-month wellness visit, if your child all of a sudden starts flapping their hands, loses language, and doesn't make eye contact anymore, which we had happen in our family, if your child all of a sudden does that, you have no recourse. You can't sue Eli Lilly. You can't sue Merck. You can't sue Pfizer. Well, parents might question then. So silver lining of the COVID tyranny and lies is that so many parents are going, wait a minute. And the craziest thing is it has become a political issue, which again, in the 70s and 80s, it was the hippie, crunchy California, San Diego types, Tim, who were the ones questioning pharma at all times. They're like, get your hands off my baby. I'm going to let my baby grow up with wheat germ and granola and run free. And now it's this right-wing nut job position to be like, yeah, I don't want the pertussis vaccine. I'm in my 50s.
Does Indiana have the same thing Illinois does, where I was allowed to write letters and get the exemption? So none of my kids have any shots ever. And that was really helpful. And I didn't know if Indiana had the same.
We do, and many states do, but California tossed their religious
Revoked
exemption.
it. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
And this was years ago, though. I don't even think it was before the pandemic, I want to say, and their medical exemption, which means you can't take your child to school and get an education. And say your kid had an adverse event, like had an anaphylactic shock reaction from like one of the jabs. And you're like, you tell the doctor, hey, the kid had a really bad response. Can we skip it this month? No, not if you want to get educated. Now, Indiana, they'll try to pressure you. Like when we got the kids, I may have talked about this, like the first day that he was enrolled in 6th grade in October of 2025, I got a call from the nurse. He's behind in one of his vaccinations. And I go, yeah, well, I'm technically the guardian, but the parent probably has to say something about that. So I pushed it off, kicked the can down the road. 6 weeks later, I get a call again. He hasn't had one of his vaccinations. I'm thinking, he's been at the school 6 weeks. Has there been some epidemic breakout because of this child?
Yes, there has. Yeah.
Everyone's healthy. What is the problem? So I go, yeah, well, to that point, though, isn't there a religious exemption that I can appeal to? And she goes, oh, yeah, of course, I can send you the paperwork. She wasn't going to offer that.
No, but send it once you asked, yeah.
So if people aren't
I'm surprised she sent it. Most schools don't. You have to go create it yourself or find it.
We're a red state. We're a red state. You need to move
At
down
Judson, I'm the medical exempt, religious exempt model. So the administrators send parents to me when they're asking other people, so I can help people write it. There's models online.
Do we want to talk about me protesting with Amy King at Judson?
You can. It's totally fine. One of the more interesting ones I just heard, this speaks to medical freedom from a different side. It's dental freedom, if you will. Remember when we used to have the fluoride? And we used to you had to soak it in your mouth, even at the dent. Yeah. They now know that it's cancerous and awful for us. Absolutely awful. And so I went on a little deep dive about the fluoride thing. And remember, they wanted us to have fluoride in our drinks.
Well, they had it in the water, Elliot. In many municipalities, they still have it in the water. If you have tap water.
Like the chlorine in our water, right? So it's like, now they're completely flipped it. And now they're acknowledging, no, fluoride is totally dangerous, totally toxic, awful for us. And I remember it was a mandate. We had to do it. That's probably the reason I hated going to the dentist anyway. But so I didn't know if you'd heard that one too about the.
Yeah. Dan and I use fluoride. We've been using fluoride-free toothpaste for a good amount of time now. It's fine. You can just.
Yeah, it's just like all the plastics too. The more we learn, the more we know. It's just craziness.
Did you get to the deep dive where there are theories that fluoride disrupts your pineal gland, which is the part of the brain that is related to spirituality and your connection to God? So then those of us who are now looking at things from a different perspective and we have theories, I will not call them conspiracy theories. They are theories, questions.
Spiritual warfare theories is what they are too.
Thank you. What entity wants us not to dull our connection to God? If in fact, and I don't know this to be true, but if in fact God wired our brain to have a certain part of the brain be the part that's responsible for our spiritual connection, well, wouldn't they want us to not have a spiritual connection? They want to deaden it. Of course they do. That's a spiritual battle.
Yeah, there was an interesting test too about, I think it was 3rd graders, and they took them through 8th grade. Yeah. And the group that kept their fluoride stuff going registered like 30 points less on IQ? General aptitude IQ than those who didn't. And again, those are simple, tiny, and I'm not saying it's universally applicable because it was a very small study, but it still gives you some cause for concern and go, what the heck are we doing?
Well, that's where you get to the point where you have to question everything. And again, we were primed to do that, being Simon Anderson's children. I'm so thankful. But it does.
Simon Anderson, Democrat.
Yeah. Right, lifelong liberal people, by the way.
Lifelong Democrat, yeah.
Also, me used to vote liberal. So,
yeah.
And I keep telling people my positions haven't changed. When I was voting for Obama, I was voting because I was working in social services at the time. I was voting to make sure we didn't have cuts to social services. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think social services are important. Do I think that they need to be audited? Yeah, because we had we just found out there were like 7 million hospice centers in California using government money, and it was obviously lining the pockets of God knows who, criminals.
All the Minnesota crisis too. And
exactly.
Chaos, yeah.
Exactly. But I was not voting for people to have to take an experimental shot because Biden's patience is wearing thin. I mean, I didn't vote for Biden, but my point is when I was voting for the left, like the left, not the left, the liberals, I was voting for I was never voting for dudes to dress up in dresses and then invade women's spaces in prisons and rape them in prisons and expose their genitals to children, little girls in bathrooms and compete against girls and take all the trophies and scholarships. So I was not voting for that. So my positions have not changed. I really don't believe they have. Maybe I've gotten a little more conservative on a couple things, but in general, my positions haven't changed. I was always when I considered myself a Democrat. No, that's for sure.
That's for
When I
sure. You
considered
have some
myself
positional change, not passion change.
when I considered myself a Democrat, I was always looking for pro-life Democrats, which there actually are a few. Speaking of pro-life, one of the Joni Ernst, I believe she's Iowa senator.
I know her name. Yep.
She broke down all the aborted fetus parts that were used for the mRNA study technology, where they took aborted fetus cells and injected them into mice, but a blend of human stem cells or cell cells, I don't know, but from aborted fetuses. Was that well known for any Christians who took the jab?
Yeah, it's gross.
Who are pro-life? Did you have that? Did you have any informed consent? Did anyone tell you what you were putting in your body?
Well, they couldn't. They didn't know. It was also
but because they weren't told.
Sent out there so fast, yes.
But there were Christians who were shaming us for not taking the jab.
Oh, yeah.
And what if I was like, hey, by the way, you just put aborted fetus, this technology was from aborted fetuses. Are you good with that, Christian, who claims to be pro-life? And it's so sad because you just can't trust anyone. And I will question my sources too. I'm like, do I trust my sources?
And I was just going there. Like, we need to trust who we're listening to too, and make sure, research and I think an aspect of the freedom pursuit of all these things, Karen, I think we're strongly advocating for people to please do the research. Please look up stuff and find the right sources and read thoroughly about all of these medical matters now. They're so complicated, so comprehensive, and I think we can't trust the system. I don't mean to be oppositional as a pastor, but we must question all of it now.
We have
I think I don't think there's a choice anymore.
But Elliot, also to your point, like, so for example, I'm concerned, wasn't I saying, I think I was saying it when the roomies were here. I'm concerned now to the point where AI, like, you see a video and it's from a source, like say it's on a legit website and they're showing this video. Can you trust it? Even a website that you think you can trust. That's my point. No. I don't know if the world isn't going to get smaller in the sense that we're going to get to the point where like anything I see online or in any kind of digital space, I'm going to assume has been doctored. And here's my question. How long has AI been AI? And we didn't know. So we're running around and watching a video that maybe on your Fox that you trust, or your Newsmax that you trust, or your CNN or your MSNBC or MS Now, whatever it is, if you trust those outlets. And you're watching it, and maybe it was AI like 5 years ago and we didn't even know.
Yeah.
Because I would submit that some of this technology the government's aware of and using before we know about it. I don't know.
I'm sure there's elements of that got to be true. And I think one good thing about this is it's going to force majority of society to question things better, because the AI manipulations, I haven't seen that politicized yet. I've seen that meaning everyone is upset about it, or at least bothered, are concerned. And so I think it's going to help narrow that influence in an appropriate way. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping too. And I'm actually hoping that it's just that like social media just crumbles and dies because people can't trust anything on it. So then we go back to our communities and love our neighbors again.
Exactly.
Stop worrying about like
force it. Yeah.
Yeah, but because I mean, to be honest, my neighbor who I used to, because when we first got Lolly, and then they had a puppy, and she's a lovely human. Love her. I think she votes differently than me. Whatever, I don't care. We would be together like an hour and a half a day because the dogs would be frolicking. But COVID comes and she was very, very masked up, and her husband sits on the board of one of the hospitals in town. And so like I remember January of 2021, I'm walking the dogs and of course mask free because I was and he's like, "Oh, Karen, you going to get your COVID shot?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't think that's something I'm interested in getting." What? Like he wasn't being mean. He was just being
surprised. Yeah,
he's like, "She seems like a halfway normal, smart person." You're like, "What?" So I was like, and then a couple months later, like in March, same thing. You're going to get that COVID shot now? I'm like, "No, I don't know what. We're not interested in that." Really? Like, huh? And so then you take these positions and then the dissension. I mean, so my point is, I'm hoping AI blows everyone's mind to the point that we're like, I have to go back to people I can touch in front of me, like know that they're real human, not a hologram, and go back to my personal experience, not what all the algorithms have been telling me to think and believe. And you got to hate this person. Maybe we'll just go back to small communities where we just together remember that we can have some differences in values and ideology and still be kind and loving. And so, I mean, we've talked about it. I don't miss any social media. I don't miss one lick. And I know there's people that have like friends of ours from childhood, from church or from the neighborhood, and they have ongoing relationships for 15 years now because of social media. And I'm sure that's gratifying for them. And I hope it is. But it doesn't feel, still to me, it doesn't feel real. And it feels like it's a time sucker away from what I need to do now, which gets us back to what does God want me to do now? And how does God want us to manage like this medical freedom thing that, is obviously, I'm just so passionate about because I want all of us to be healthy. I want all of us to have to not, I mean, the tyranny of that people I'm so confused that people aren't enraged. It's surprise. I don't understand it. Like
Yeah, I
that
had an
wasn't
interesting
freedom.
conversation with someone the other day. I think it was a client maybe 2 weeks ago. And we were talking about all kinds of holistic measures. And they've done some radical changes to their diet to really be organic and oil, all the poisonous oils, all that stuff. They've done great. And then somehow it switched on to vaccines. And when she asked me what I did or do with my kids, because she has young kids, and I said, no, we didn't do any, she was flabbergasted. And I just quickly related it to, well, just like you have researched and read about the foods and what you want to put in your body that way, I did the same thing on the vaccine side and decided I didn't want to put that in my kids. And you know what? They're all very healthy and they all went through all of school without any issues and no measles, no mumps, no anything else. And now they're adults and now they're not doing it. Right. So it helped her to hear it from a
Yeah.
different perspective. Like you researched it and said, you know what? No more fried food. I researched and said, you know what? No more vaccines. Right. It was a
Right.
similar mindset, but I think societal has this fear about this piece, right? And that's part of the marketing for sure,
Yeah.
right? When you listen to the drug companies, and the one that enraged me recently, Karen, I was painting, I think for Mrs. Shea, I was doing some work for Mrs. Shea, another job that mom got me that I really didn't want, but all of a sudden I had it, so
It's
it was
Dr.
okay.
Shea.
Dr. Shea, yeah, Dr. Ness Shea. I was working for her, and I heard a commercial for a psoriasis medication, and they were talking about give it to your children. This is approved for children, and then I saw the TV commercial later, and they have it's like 5, 6-year-olds, and they're wanting the psoriasis medication now for kids. I'm like, that seems abusive. That seems criminal. And I couldn't believe it that the marketing was that direct. And so there's one of those lines again where I'm like, okay, come on, people. How can we not recognize the abuse here?
And I
Don't
want
worry
to know.
about diet. Don't worry about
No,
exercise.
no,
Just give them, yeah.
no. And two things come to mind. One, I want to know the clinical trials for that psoriasis medication. Were they even doing clinical trials on children? Because they often don't. They'll just generalize from what the clinical trials showed for the adults. Do they do any long-term studies? Like, oh, maybe it cleared up the psoriasis for 5 days, and then 2 years later it comes right back, or 2 months later it comes right back. I mean, with Xanax, there's the clinical trials show like an increased a reduction in anxiety for like, I want to say 2 months, and then anxiety pops right back and gets worse. And it's addictive. So like you look at these clinical trials where like it showed that it lessens for 2 months. Give me the next month. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
The language they use is so clever.
So tricky. And
Oh
the
my
second
goodness.
thing I want to say about
May
this,
have this, right? And all these kind of things.
have. Second thing I want to say about the psoriasis for the children,
Mhm.
I wonder how many times psoriasis is listed in the insert as an adverse event from a childhood vaccine. We
Yeah,
didn't
that'd be
have
interesting.
kids
Yeah.
running around with psoriasis, did we?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
and they didn't have egg allergies.
I
They
didn't.
didn't have peanut allergies.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
could bring peanut butter cookies for your birthday to your second grade class. No one freaked out. No one had an anaphylactic seizure. So that is my guess. What is happening is poison the children through the childhood vaccine schedule, give them autism, so then they have to have all these medications for that. Then they have to have ABA for the rest of their life. Give them autism, give allergies, and they have to buy EpiPens, give them ADHD, then they're going to be on real. It is such a racket. Poison the child, and then they're a patient for life. And I guarantee you, and I haven't looked it up, but I will now, I bet you psoriasis is one of the adverse events listed in the insert. Because they do list them.
Please let me know once you look it up.
I will.
Yeah.
Because Dan's always like, how many people have psoriasis? When did this happen? Like every other commercial is psoriasis.
You know there's money behind it. Right? Because if all of a sudden that's this massive marketing piece, you're like, okay. Because I hear it on the radio now. I'm hearing it on TV all the time. And the context again of the, we're only one of 2 countries that allows medical commercials, right? Yeah, New Zealand
direct to consumer.
Yeah, poor New Zealand. But I'm sure people are aware of this, even if you're not anti-vax and anti-pharma, you're still aware of the proliferation of the commercials. It's now alcohol for sports. I mainly watch sports. It's either alcohol or drugs. That's my commercial. Cars aren't even advertised that much anymore.
No, hardly at all. Hardly at all.
It's fascinating. Yeah, at least the cigarette commercials are gone. I remember those when we were little.
Well, RFKJ, one of his agenda items is to get rid of pharmaceutical ads direct to consumer on TV. But good luck, because you know how pharma is the biggest funder of all our politicians.
And it reminds me also, Karen, about what we've, as therapists, clinical therapists, we've talked about our profession creating codependency and enablement often, just like our commercials create that, and just like our medical fields can create that. Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. So we're calling ourselves out too. If people are like, why are they always railing on stuff? We're railing on our own profession too. That there's a lot of that combination of what is our intent here? What is our process? We're about healing and freedom and safety and security and health? Are we just about propaganda towards some type of societal dependence that we're the most unhealthy we've ever been as a country, and we have every advantage possible. So it's obviously not working. So why are we not radically and we are starting. There are some movements that are starting. That is exciting.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of, because again, some of these Democrat senators, and I hate to make it political, I wish it weren't. I wish they would come up and be like, yeah, my constituents we lost thousands of people due to this COVID debacle, blah, blah. But one of the guys was like talking about these, Fauci's been a public servant for 50 years under many administrations. I was talking to my GC who was here working on stuff this morning. He's like, yeah, what's happened in the last 50 years under his taking care of the American people's health? Under Fauci, we're sicker, we're fatter, we need drugs to get skinny. Our food pyramid was a joke. Finally had to flip it on its head. What's your track record, bro? Bring it. We're the richest country supposedly, but we're the sickest. Make it make sense? Because we're the
most therapized country,
we're depressed and miserable,
and anxious more than ever before. Yeah. What happened? I thought there was some medical laws coming about Ozempic and all the weight loss drugs, but it seems like there's new ones out, and they've kind of twisted it.
Pill form now, so you don't even have to take the injection. You can take a pill.
I heard that piece.
Yeah.
And they changed the name. I don't know if they messed with the chemistry or.
Well, there's Mounjaro, there's Ozempic, it's a GLP-1. Maybe there's another version of it. And I feel bad for people that are overweight, because again, when you have seed oils in every single food, when you have sugar, everything, and it's not cheap to buy organic. And let's hope the organic is actually organic. I question whether that's really happening. If they're spraying a field with pesticides and glyphosate on the one, and then the wind carries it to the organic field. Are we still getting some of that crud? Probably, but I feel for people. I don't think it's their fault a lot of times. I don't even think these foods, the processed foods, they have labs where they literally try to increase whatever MSG, whatever crud they put in there to make them so difficult for us to stop eating. This is a fact.
Well, like Oreos, right? The 98 different addictive parts of Oreo, whatever they said they discovered.
I saw a quick little reel of some sort about Oreos, that filling, which I love. I will never touch an Oreo again, ever. It is full of mess. I like my own buttercream frosting. I can make my own Maha version. Not saying
I had my cupcake while you guys were out in the boat.
Yeah.
And it was good, but I got a head rush. It was like,
well,
whoa. That was sweet.
I don't play with my buttercream frosting.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
But it was organic, heavy whipping cream. It was organic. Well, I don't think there's powdered sugar. I can't find organic powdered sugar around here.
Man, the house snacked one where I'm going to grab one when everyone's out.
He loves it. Liv made those. Liv made them for me because I was running around doing other stuff. So
Yeah, you had a lot going on. That was a lot of people.
I know, I loved it. It's fun. I like having a
So
house
just
full.
like,
I was a little salty though at you because you started griping about the traffic and you're going to be
it wasn't
hungry.
a gripe. I did amazing. That
Sir,
was
sir,
2.5 hours to
you
get
should
there.
have
I'm like,
packed your clothes so you could have left straight from church.
yeah.
You
But,
should have
well,
packed a snack so you wouldn't be
we had to
hangry.
go let the dogs out.
I know, I appreciate
Poor
that,
Twain
but
can't go from 8 in the morning
no,
till
not my
11 at night.
baby. She should have
And I still had
come.
people coming. To let her out and help her. But
But my issue is that as the youngest child, I always feel like no one takes me seriously. And so if I want to host the party, not my family, that you're like, oh, we got to go to Karen's, the little
no, we like coming.
sister.
It was just the traffic. It always gets me.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
sometimes it's
know.
nice. On the way home, it was fine. It was easy. We
Good.
got home an hour and a half. And I told Dan too, when Dan's like, man, I'm sorry about traffic. I'm like, hey man, you do this 15 more times than we do. So totally fine. We can suck it up and handle the traffic.
It definitely like clicked into my youngest child thing, just FYI.
Which is all right. So just like we talked about, and people will hear my messages if they choose to listen to them, our responsibility to choose spiritual freedom. Right. And the great apologists would say, hey, if you're questioning this God thing or you think God's delusion, find out for yourself. Actually research. Do the research and find out if Jesus is true. Right? Do the research. Find out. That's freedom. You're not going to have freedom if you just say, well, there's no God. I'm not even going to look at it. Right? That's not freedom. You might feel free in it, but it's not freedom because you're not pursuing and you're not investigating. You're not researching for yourself. So in that aspect of the spiritual freedom, we want to say the same thing about medical freedom. Just read the labels, figure stuff out. The elements of, Angie's a super shopper, right? And so just the elements of what goes into all the things she buys and how she gets her prices and the shrinking sizes of cereal boxes, right? What's considered a family size box now was our regular size when we were growing up. Just all those elements. And that's not even a health factor. That's just the financial factor of the ounces going down. Ice cream's not even real ice cream most of the time.
No.
It's a frozen dessert, they call it, or whatever now. It's not even true ice cream, right? And so just being aware of those things to pursue the knowledge and the truth sets you free to figure out and not just be spoon fed from society or medicine or even faith.
And I would invite people to consider who you trust. We've talked about that extensively. Who do we trust? I mean, part of this dismantling of us not trusting politicians and the government is a good thing because then we just go to God. I mean, I know that anytime that we realize we cannot put our faith and trust in humans, that's a good thing in a sense because it just pushes us back to God if you're a believer. But I would submit as people are doing research and not sure who to trust. Because I mean, if you go look at the doctors that I trust, like the wellness company, Dr. Peter McCullough, who was a dissident, Dr. Pierre Corey, Jay Bhattacharya, who's now in the administration. These are very, very well-respected doctors until they said, I don't know about this COVID approach. I don't. And then they were vilified. You go look at their Wikipedia entries. They're going to be called crackpots who were like.
I've not done that before. That'd be interesting.
Oh, you can't trust Wikipedia. No. So anyway, you have to be careful what sources you look to. But I would submit, for me, who took the risk to lose, lost their medical licenses, lost their reputations, lost so much to stand on truth. It reminds me, bringing it back to spiritual truth. The disciples were willing to die. Every single last one of them, except for John, did die for Jesus.
Well, so martyr, not just die, but martyr.
Martyr for the faith.
Yeah.
To me, that suggests that they believed it with all their heart because they were willing to die. So when you think about someone who's willing to take a stand that's so against the grain, they might have something to offer you.
At least worth considering and looking at.
At least considering and just holding back from your natural tendency to just go, no, that's a quack pot. That's a white ring nut job position. That's an anti-vaxxer. Think about the slurs. Again, the term conspiracy theorist was created by the CIA after JFK assassination to make sure that we could just throw a blanket. We don't believe that. That's a crackpot. So think about anti-vaxxer. These terms are very useful. Oh, she's just an anti-vaxxer. Yeah, I am. So that means that everything that I've researched and I've read more books than you have. Not you, random person who's going to call me an anti-vaxxer, random person who thinks it's a slur. I've gone to more conferences. I've done more deep dives than you're willing to do because I'm just an anti-vaxxer. No, I'm actually a critically thinking human being who cares about babies, cares about children, and wants to protect, and all of us wants to protect us. But that's fine. You can paint me as an anti-vaxxer freak. But is that the fullness of me? Is that really the Karen you know? No, but
yeah, and it just allows fear to bring about a label containment so that we don't have to acknowledge and walk through and process and converse.
Right. And that's what, I could go in so many directions, but that's why we don't advocate for emotional cutoffs, because then you can just continue to have this notion of who this person is and paint them any way you want to, because you've stopped having actual interactions with them. Anyway, but back to the spiritual piece about freedom, that's what came to mind when you're talking about. So when we're talking about doing the research, and again, in this very complex world, which I don't think is by accident, that it's harder and harder to know what to trust and who to trust.
The polarization in that regard is prophetic, in my opinion. It's moving towards end times where
yes, it is.
Jesus will separate the sheep from the goat, right? And it'll be clear.
Because all this stuff, I was talking to my stepmom coach, Laura, who's been on the show, like, she does believe that all this vaccine stuff is really, and she took the COVID vaccine. I think she took the jab, the first one, and maybe the first two, and then she had some like autoimmune thing happen. So she's like now more skeptical of it, but she does believe that all this childhood stuff, it divides families. You can't see the baby, you can't hold the baby unless you get the whooping cough vaccine, which, by the way, is not just a whooping cough, it's a Tdap. So tetanus, which I don't have. I'm never going to get tetanus because I don't live on a farm. Diphtheria, pertussis is the whooping cough, whatever. So the point is, she really believes it's demonic. She's like, this is dividing families, and that's just definitely what the devil wants to do, is divide families. And so I think that we have to look at that, like you said, the polarization, and we have to try to find common ground, because it's so sad. It's just so sad. It's so sad. And I'm really struggling how to be an advocate for what I'm passionate about, but also still, I need to represent Christ. And I think if I'm flipping tables, Jesus did flip tables.
Yes,
but if I'm flipping tables, it can be misconstrued as a negative energy. So that's what God's trying to work on with me personally.
So maybe you're flipping a plate or two, maybe not the whole table.
My friend at church has a T-shirt, flipping tables for Jesus. And I'm like, I love it. Oh, yeah.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Well, could you pray us out today?
Yeah, God, I don't even know what we talked about today. Just so many things that I have such a passion for. Ellie does too. We want to present our passion in a way that can be well received. And I think I don't do that very well personally. I think I get really keyed up because I don't know, God, you just wired me to be an intense human. But I don't want my intensity to alienate people. I want them to see that it's coming from a place of deep love and concern. And I know it doesn't. So I know you're working on me with that. I just ask for truth in this midst of our series on freedom, because the truth will set us free. But there is a spirit of confusion, a spirit of lies that the devil has a hold on so many of us. I'm not saying I have clarity in everything. That would be dumb and arrogant. I don't. I'm sure that I have a spirit of confusion and lies about things too. So I humbly ask that you would help us all, and that we could be part of the solution, not part of the problem, because I know for a fact sometimes I'm part of the problem. And I just pray that you would be the great healer and the great truth provider and the great restorer of division and just destroyer of brokenness and relationships and internally as well, as people feel broken as they're so confused and demoralized. And we just ask that this podcast will be received, that people have ears to hear our intention and our hearts. In Jesus' name, amen.
Love and Life with Dr. Karen and Pastor Elliott is produced by Tim May and executive producer, Dr. Karen Anders-Nabel. For more information about Love and Life, please go to loveandlifemedia.com.